Hello everybody, welcome back for another video. Hope you're all doing well and that you're all having an incredible day. Today's video is a popular question I've seen in the comment section. It's why do I prefer studios over 1 or 2 bedrooms when it comes to buying real estate? I'll explain to you. It's not that I prefer studios, it's more that studios are easier. 3 things. There's a lower barrier of entry. They are cheaper to buy than other things, and I can buy them without getting into debt. I have mentioned many times before on this channel, it's one of my philosophies. I do not, in my life, plan on getting into debt. I have never been in debt, and I would like to keep it this way for as long as humanly possible. I have seen what debt has done to other people in my life, whether that be with credit cards or mortgage debt or things that can't be repaid. And I have tried to learn from all of these things. So I found out that the way that I deal with my businesses and the way that I ended up making money is that by the end of the year, I typically have enough to be able to buy another property without having to get into debt, without having to get a mortgage, which is also very nice for me because I don't want a situation where I have to pay a whole bunch of money back to a bank for the next 30 years. Once again, that's just how I currently feel. And I would recommend if you are looking to get into the real estate market to look into studios simply because of all the things I just said. The lower cost to buy is also a very big thing. I have found many times, I've mentioned to you before, I have found studios. This is a rare one. This is a mega exception. I found a 35 meters squared studio before for $9,000, which was absolutely wonderful. It was already renovated as well. It was a kind of weird thing that I'm pretty sure I must have spoken about it in another video. A lot of the studios that I have found have been anywhere between $45,000, $55,000, $65,000. And people were asking me another really popular question that I can't make an entire video on. Where do I find these things? You can kind of find them anywhere. Of course, you will not find them in New York or Miami or Los Angeles or San Francisco. I got that comment a lot of times. People were like, well, I don't see those in my area. And I'm like, well, don't assume that you also have to buy things that are within your area. If you can drive to these things within an hour or two, you should probably also look in other areas as well. And also even on top of that, if you're going to get into the real estate game, it is usually very important for you to have a real estate, not broker, like someone who also looks after the place for like a rental agency so that should something happen, it's not you getting into the car at 2 o'clock at night who has to go there. It's the actual rental agency because you're paying them and that's their job. And lower barrier of entry for the other things that I was just talking about as well. They're a lot less expensive than other places. I've seen 1 bedrooms that have actually just been another 10, 15 meters squared, like an actual, just 1 more room. And they've been 30, 40, 50, 60,000 more because the premium on top of actually getting the 1 bedroom doesn't even equate into the actual rental income that you could have gotten if you just kind of compared the actual prices of the real estate. So I prefer studios because of a lot of those reasons. Studios are always in demand. I have not had a situation one time yet, fingers crossed, where they weren't rented super easily. I think that's the entire thought for that one. They're never really difficult to rent. You're always going to find someone, especially if you are within a relatively popular, well-known, up-and-coming kind of area. A lot of people, you don't underestimate the amount of people who actually want to live in studios or the people who are willing to live in studios so that they can say that they live in a particular area. That's a very big thing. A lot of people sometimes when they get into real estate assume that they need a 4, 5, 6 family home, house, property, duplex, triplex thing to start off with. A lot of people are more than willing to live in studios to be able to say that they live in a certain area. You'd be shocked. Tying directly into that as well, it's easier to buy property in major cities at a lower cost with the premium of the actual location. For instance, I mean, I know like older prices. I don't know the prices that much anymore for New York City because I haven't really been paying attention to it. Studios are cheaper than 2 and 3 bedrooms. That kind of explains all of that as well. If you are desperate to have something inside of a major city, start looking for studio apartments. They will be significantly cheaper while you're still also able to own something in a very popular area at a huge fraction of the cost. And the rent, like I said before, isn't normally that different from what you could be getting from the actual 1 bedroom. So don't kind of count it out as something It's getting really dark in here. It was really bright like half a minute ago, but like before I started the video, I think the clouds have rolled in. You get the point. It becomes drearier as I continue making the video. Anyway, I know a lot of people who have bought property in London, in New York, San Francisco, and Paris. No in Barcelona yet, but they have all purchased studio apartments, and it's been a lot cheaper. And they're able to also say, I own property in X place at a cheaper cost, and they still got to get the premium as well if you're renting it to normal people in general, or if you're trying to rent it as a vacation property. People are still going to rent out your studio while they're trying to go on vacation, because there are also people, if you're trying to go to Paris and you're trying to have like a budget vacation, you're probably not going to rent out a 5-bedroom. But the studio apartment looks really good because it's a lot cheaper and it fits into your budget, and there will usually always be someone who's trying to rent out your property for whatever reason you're trying to rent it out for. Student accommodation, easy, all the time. If you are buying in a city where, I was gonna say a city where there are universities, I think a lot of cities have universities, it's a very safe bet. You will always, especially around, it's August, September. This is usually the time period where you'll get tons of people who are sending you messages nonstop. I've rented out a couple places by myself before. This is usually the time period. Or the actual rental agency will tell you, sometimes you'll get people who will rent for an entire year contract, which is also a really good thing. I always get a 1-year contract as a way to stop people trying to live there longer. Just me. After the 1-year contract, a lot of people usually end up leaving in like June. If you have students, because they go back home or wherever they came from, but they paid for the entire year, which is also kind of great for you, because you can either find someone immediately or you can try to wait for another student to come around the student year time. And it's always, studios make great student accommodation. It also is a budget place because usually students aren't looking for some type of luxury place to be able to rent out. And they are more than happy, once again, to be able to rent out something that's usually a lot cheaper. Especially for a lot of the studios that I have, you can rent them out. And so here's a trick that I learned. A lot of people will have their studios or other apartments and stuff like that on for $1,200, $1,300, $1,400 per month for rent. I found it works for me. It may not work for everybody else. If I put mine on for like $995, gone. Immediately rented out. I'm missing out on the extra $200 that I could have had from rent, but a lot of times when I check to see if the other places who are also trying to get rented out, a lot of these places are still there because they go for the cheapest places first, and mine is always the cheapest. So I end up getting the money before other people maybe take 2 or 3 months to actually get there. So that's just one of my tricks. Sometimes they're easier to sell than larger places. I haven't really sold a lot of my real estate, but the ones that I have sold, usually there's also a huge market for people who are also, studios are just a very good market in general. They rent out very easily, they're low cost, and usually when you're trying to sell them, a lot of people are very eager to usually pay whatever price you're trying to pay, because if people are trying to get on the property ladder and everything else is these huge, large places, you've seen them before if you've been looking around, they've been 2, 3, 4, 5 bedrooms, what have you. Studios are very usually hard to come by because people like me are usually buying them up in mass because they are such a great little thing to have. And I have written down easy, quick rental return. Also, the exact same thing. I haven't had an issue once, fingers crossed, yet when it comes to renting out one of these places. They rent out extremely quick. And the rental return that I get from them is absolutely excellent. And also mentioning before that I buy them without any debt, which is also absolutely wonderful. So all the money that I'm actually getting from them is just a plus on top of that. Yeah, anything else I missed? I can't really think of anything else. If you have been looking to get into real estate, I would definitely suggest that you look into studio apartments. There's nothing wrong with them. I've covered this multiple other times in my other videos. A lot of times people look to get into the real estate market and they think that they have to buy something large. Start out small, especially if you are intimidated in some sort of way with the actual market. Make sure that you buy something that you are comfortable with and just go over the numbers. I have other videos that I've made before where I talk about the actual numbers that you need to look at to make sure that the property is worth it and that you can actually make your money back from it within a 15 to 18 to 20 year period. This is normally the amount of time that people look for to be able to make their money back from their properties. Hope I answered the question. Hope you all are having a great day. Great morning, a great afternoon, a great evening, wherever you are, wherever you might be. I do hope it's absolutely fantastic. Thank you all once again for watching and or listening, and I will most certainly be talking to you all soon. See you.